Hello everyone, a very good morning to you. Welcome to Spielberg, Trofeo, Pirelli and Corse from the Ferrari Challenge that will be racing across the Styrian Circuit this weekend. Hello everyone, welcome, and as you can see the circuit, which is located in perhaps one of the most beautiful, or against one of the most beautiful backdrops of any circuit in Europe, here in Spielberg in Austria. Very, very undulating, if somewhat short circuit, 4.3 kilometers. Follow us please on @Ferrari Races. This is where we are then, about 2 hours south of Vienna in Austria, with beautiful countryside, and I have to say this morning, reasonable weather. We're not expecting it necessarily to stay dry for the entire duration of the day, but fingers are crossed and hope springs eternal, I think they say. And there you can see, looking down from the recently named Niki Lauda turn down to the start-finish straight, and there you can see the cloud enveloping some of the mountains. The air temperature is currently 10 degrees. Very little wind around, just 2 kilometers per hour of fluttering that is going on at the moment. What can we expect as you join us this morning? We can expect Trofeo Pirelli qualifying. The two classes that race within Trofeo Pirelli are, of course, the Pirelli drivers and the Pirelli AM drivers. So two separate categories that race in the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli. So there you can see Alessio Dono, who is currently leading the championship. He had a difficult time of it last time out, so we will see what Alessio is able to do today. He's got some real competition with the young UK driver, Nico Spalek, Tom Fleming, who of course had a great time of it when last we were out in Misano. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Dave. Good morning, everybody. Yes, absolutely. I mean, Alessio Dono has shown incredible speed, but as you say, Tom Fleming also has shown incredible speed and therefore has challenged Alessio. Both of them a little bit unlucky in Misano race 2, with Alessio with a puncture, not being able to finish the race in P1, and Tom Fleming inheriting the win, almost. Well, he had to work for it, but then his car was disqualified afterwards due to a small technical irregularity. Probably didn't help him anything in terms of speed, but rules are rules, and that means his win was taken away, and therefore they both have the pace, but also neither of them had quite the result that they thought they might have. So a lot to play for in this qualifying session, and obviously later on in the race. We're about a minute and a half away as we see drivers going through their last stage of preparation.
That was Andreas Berg Sorensen putting his earpieces in because, of course, the drivers are in touch all the time with their teams via a radio link, of course. There you can see Simon Ladniak also going through final stages of preparation before he takes to that really rather resplendent number 21 car and takes to the track for this 30-minute qualifying session, which will set the grid for the race to come this afternoon. This is the striking green livery of Kim Eriksson. And alongside the Kim Eriksson car, you can see Peter Christensen's number 121 car. Now, Peter Christensen is a Corse driver, but they both, of course, racing for the Formula Racing team, hence the cars in the garage together. And they're, again, final stages of preparation going on. And there we can see Eddie Cheever Jr., one of the driver coaches. And their center shot right now is the team boss, if you will, of Formula Racing. Just going about his duties with laptop in hand. One Mr. Philippe Pret. He puts his hands device and crash helmet on. So Philippe Pret, another very, very experienced Ferrari Challenge racer. I remember the battles royal between himself and Max Blancardi in the early days of my debut in the Ferrari Challenge, which is really rather more years ago than I care to remember now, because it makes me feel ever older, to be honest. And both Philippe and Max Blancardi, both two very, very dominant characters in the rich history that we have across the Ferrari Challenge, which of course last year spanned 30.
Absolutely. And very big character and very experienced in the Ferrari Challenge obviously applies to you as well, as we have a green and we're about to qualifying, and as is often the case on a Saturday qualifying, everybody's
no one's in a hurry.
Yeah,
no one's in a hurry.
And the reason for that, if you are joining us for the first time, and we welcome you, and we welcome everybody who has joined us in the past, welcome back. The reason is the qualifying is done on the same set of Pirelli P0s that the race will be held on. So tire preservation starts effectively the moment the teams enter the circuit in the morning, and that means you don't want to overdrive your tires in the early part of the qualifying session, especially at 9 AM when you expect the track to improve, get warmer, get more rubbered in. So you expect the good quali times to come towards the end of the session.
That's fair.
Now, that also means the teams certainly don't expect any precipitation during this qualifying session, or they might choose a different strategy. We don't expect rain in the morning as well. This afternoon, maybe a little bit of a different story in the mountains as we are here. Weather can change on a dime, and it has in the past. 2019, we were here in the beginning of May, and it was snowing so much that Pirelli Race 2 just didn't happen because of the snow. We don't expect snow this weekend, do we, Dave?
It's not on my radar. I'm not saying that my radar is necessarily very comprehensive, but it's not expected. But as you say, it can change in a heartbeat here, and who knows? That is the power plant that propels these 488 Challenge Evo cars. Absolutely wonderful, wonderful racing car. The drivers so love driving them, and it's the Eric Chung car that we look at here. Now, of course, Eric Chung had a real coming together towards the end of the Misano weekend when last we were out with von Skeltermar. Thankfully, both drivers back again. And there we can see the Andreas Berg Sorensen car. And getting ready to get out on track. So good to see. And there we can see Mohammed Hamdi, or we saw just for a moment, and then the number 26 car of James Owen. And there is James. Good morning. I haven't spoken to James this weekend yet. He's kept himself very non-visible. He drives for Meridian Modena and FF Corse. And James Owen, he looked very good in Misano, and he'll be hoping to take another step up here, potentially at Spielberg this weekend. So Mohammed Hamdi then for the Ez Al Arab team. Best finish so far came in race 2 in Valencia, the opening round, took a P6. So see what Mohammed can do here in Spielberg in Austria. Trofeo Pirelli AM driver, and big thumbs up there. So already the first 4 minutes have gone as we do at last see Heinz Otto Blank out there on track. And for Heinz Otto, it's his first run in the Ferrari Challenge this year. He missed out on the rounds in Misano and Valencia, but the Lueg Sportivo Frank Herta Racing Organization with him now as he approaches what is now classified as turn number 3. Originally it was turn number 2, but they've decided for whatever reason that the kink between turns 1 and what is now 3 becomes a turn in its own right, which is turn number 2. You take it full chat, absolutely flat, driving uphill, heading towards the turn number 3, and you can see just how steep it is now as the drivers climb out of the pit lane, and they shortcut turn number 1, which of course is the Niki Lauda turn, and head up onto the track. And you can see various parts of which have been resurfaced as we watch Philippe Pret then getting by Hanno Laskowski in the number 88 car driving for Emil Frey, Nico.
Indeed, and you can see where that turn number 2 is, which is barely a kink here. For the MotoGP and the motorbikes, there is an actual chicane in there, in that part of the uphill. So maybe that numeration of turns has something to do with having consistency there. But in any event, David Gosner will not take the MotoGP kink. At least we don't hope so. But he will take part in this qualifying session. As you can see, he is getting ready, settled into his seat. The David Gosner writing on the side of the car as we follow the number 4 car of Philippe Pret, who you already introduced so magnificently, and he is doing the introduction himself on the tarmac as he's in the second sector. No challenging times for the moment. We were at a 1:29 roughly pole time last time around by a certain Michel Gatting, who put that pole position time into the record books. Not here with us today, so let's see who can challenge for pole position and that fast lap. Doing it right now is our debutant Heinz Otto Blank. As you can see, not challenging for that time for the moment because we're already at well, a little bit over that trajectory. If we have a look at a replay here, or is that?
No, we're splitting it so we can
screen.
see the driver in action inside the cockpit of the car. I say cockpit, of course, it's a beautiful car, which is indeed where Heinz Otto is driving. And by splitting the screen, you can see how the driver is performing inside the car and how that relates to how the car places itself on track. And here you can see Heinz Otto Blank then having to really, really brake and avoid the number 81 car of Nick Haller, which was going through a warm-up phase. Now, let me explain, if you're new to it, the graphics at the bottom of your screen, which indicate the driver, the team, and also S1, S2, and S3, they relate to the sectors on the track. Now, sector lines here in Spielberg, sector 1 is a really, really short sector. Basically, it contains 2 turns, turns 1 and 2. Then sector 2 runs through until from turns 3 through until turn 6, and then the final sector from 7 through until 10. And the reason for the sector times and the colors across the sector graphics that you saw, if they're colored purple, it basically means it's quicker than anyone in each particular sector. If it's colored blue, it means it's a personal best. If it's kind of not indicated with a color at all, it means it's a shabby effort. And the driver will go again. Sorry, I'm being slightly unfair about that, as you can see. Philippe Pret now, as he crosses, heading up towards the sector line. You'll probably see it across the track. Around about now, I would suggest, is where he should go across it. And Philippe Pret, by dint of having made S1 purple, that's to tell you that he has gone quicker than anybody else in the sector so far. He's got James Owen ahead of him now. James Owen pulls out of the way, allows Philippe Pret an unhindered run into turn number 4, where you run downhill. It's a real roller coaster, this Spielberg circuit, and you have to hold on, really, particularly after turn number 4, because it's a consistent downhill gradient all the way until the final turn. So Philippe Pret looking pretty promising here. A target time of 1:05.564. Sector 2 is also another better than anybody else, and his cumulative time thus far a 1:03. So Philippe Pret looking pretty reasonable here. We expect the very best times to come right at the end of the session, but nonetheless, this will give us a good benchmark with which to measure everybody else. And here he runs into the final turn now, accelerates and heads towards the breaking the beam of the laser that delineates the track, and a 1:32.451 comes from Philippe Pret. So certainly quicker than anyone else at the moment. Armin Arifpour now for Riller and Schnauk. We run the clock on, and we will see what he can do. Personal best in sector 1 and sector 2. That may not be enough. I mean, he's currently 4th fastest. And interestingly, all the drivers that we're seeing so far that are putting meaningful times at the top of the timing screen, Nico, are Pirelli AM drivers by dint of their white sun strip across the top of the windscreen. The Pirelli drivers have a red strip across the top of the windscreen, and not one of the devils has chosen to come out yet, you know.
The devils. Yeah, indeed. A very, very apt and accurate observation. There is Hanno Laskowski, one of the very, very quick Pirelli M drivers with the night blue yellow livery. Looks very, very good, and we've said it many times before, all you can do with the shape of a 488 Challenge Evo. A lot of creative designs and liveries, some very purist and simple, some quite elaborate, and both of that you can make work, and Hanno Laskowski made it work the last time around. The 1:31.503 is our best time for the moment, and that is, given that we were 1:29 for pole last time we were here, that is quite an impressive time already. So let's see what is the limit. The sky, the 1:29, the 1:30 barrier, we will see. Daniel Del Favaro still biding his time in pit lane as Hanno Laskowski puts in another purple first sector, and we will watch that as the clock has just ticked to under 20 minutes remaining. Still an abject lack of Pirelli drivers.
Hanno, in every race this year, has been on the podium. It's been P3s and P2s. He hasn't yet taken the race win. He would dearly love to do that in what is a relatively local race for him. We will see. Certainly he's going about qualifying in a very determined way, isn't he, with yet more purple sectors, as you quite rightly intimated, Nico. So Hanno Laskowski could be one to watch this weekend in Pirelli AM, and the Emil Frey driver in the number 85 car then rounding the final turn. You do run the risk of abusing the track limits across the final turn, and also there are another couple of turns where it can almost encourage you to do that. 1:30.657 for Hanno Laskowski, which means he is right at the top of the chart at the moment, but Philippe Pret is beginning to push once again with personal bests through Sector 1 and Sector 2. And Philippe Pret is one of those, Nico, that you've just pointed out, the indicator on our timing screen that we have that you at home, I regret, don't, indicates that Philippe Pret is going to have that time disallowed because of a track limits excursion. Just what I was talking about.
Indeed, and if you want to have the timing screen, you can do that. Just go to the Ferrari Races website and you will find, navigate that, you will find the Spielberg event, you will find the live timing link from our friends at Alcamel, and you can watch our timing screen as well alongside the live stream. You said Hanno Laskowski hasn't taken a win yet. In fairness, he is up against the boss. He's up against Franz Engstler, who has, dare I say, swept the victories. So thus far it's been best of the rest for Hanno Laskowski, and he's done that more often than not. And Franz Engstler, he's just on his outlap. He obviously was the Shell champion last year, hasn't missed anything. Not a step, not a wheel, not an apex. Has been pretty much perfect thus far. So will that streak of dominance continue here?
Based on previous performance, you would say pretty likely, wouldn't you? France is, of course, a hugely experienced driver. The team are very, very structured. Luca Engstler is here this weekend. Of course, Luca is going to be making his debut in the DTM this year, and richly deserved. He's a talented young driver. He comes from good stock as well, because France, a former DTM driver, and then lo and behold, they have former DTM champion driver Manuel Reuter running the blooming team. I mean, it ought to be good, Nico.
Absolutely. And Hanno Laskowski, Emil Frey Racing. Let's just continue with the DTM theme, because obviously Emil Frey Racing will field the Ferrari 488, not Challenge, but GT3 version. Oh no, sorry, it's actually the 296 GT3 now from this year.
I would never want to.
Well, you're right.
Suggest you're wrong, but
stop myself there. It's actually obviously the premiere in the DTM of the 296. And obviously next year we will premiere the 296 Challenge in the Ferrari Challenge. At least that's what we're being told, and everybody says so. And I've put my order in.
Have you?
Yeah, well, for a small replica model. I mean, let's be fair. We have a yellow flag at turn number 1, and that is where, I mean, RF4 is heading for. So let's see if we can see something. Obviously, under yellow flag conditions, no improvement on the timing. So that is significant.
Red flag now, Nico. Red flag. Forgive me interrupting you, but whatever has happened at turn number 1, I couldn't quite see, but we've now got a red flag. So that, for the moment, suspends the session. And that's the reason why off the track is Kim Eriksson. Now, has Kim made contact with the barriers? Having looked at the front end of his 488 Challenge Evo, it was a little scrunch there, so I think he probably has. Kim Eriksson then, another very talented driver from Formula Racing. Here we can see back end of the car stepping out. Kim Eriksson trying to hold on to it. Certainly there's going to be contact, because the braking effort compresses the front end of the car. And the barriers did their job, and the 488 Challenge Evo did its job as well, because what it does, it absorbs the energy, Nico.
Yeah, also the barriers compressed the front end of the car in a rather less fortunate way, but it wasn't too much of an impact, so certainly unfortunate for Kim Eriksson, but I mean, the
unfortunate for the engineers of Formula Racing. Now I've got to put a new front on it.
Well, indeed, but I think in terms of what could have happened, given the speed that you take that turn with,
yeah.
it's not as significant, and Kim Eriksson is having a look at that. Yeah, okay, I had a little bit of a fender bender right there.
Francesco Casalacci there, who's driver coach to Andreas Berg Sorensen, we can see offering advice to his driver. It's lovely, and you can see how seriously these drivers and coaches take this. Tablet in hand, discussing the data already, Nico, for Andreas Berg Sorensen, who makes his debut in the Ferrari Challenge, of course, this year. He got some early year running in by taking part in the wonderful Ferrari Winter Series in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, where he's made his debut for Formula Racing. And there you can see Hanno Laskowski also receiving information from the Emerald Ferrari team. Red flag with 15, jolly near 16 minutes. Manuela Gosner, Corinna Gosner, the two Gosner sisters there, blowing kisses, presumably to Nico rather than me, irritatingly.
I think it's going to be both of us, and you more than anybody else, or maybe even our audience. Well, possibly all of us. Now, obviously, as you just said, just under 16 minutes, that kind of punctuates this qualifying session. Still, we haven't had anybody from the Pirelli drivers out for any meaningful times. The only one to even make it out of pit lane was Adrian Sutil, who just came out on his outlap before the red flag came out. So it didn't really upset their strategy. What it does, obviously, it brings everybody back into the pit lane, and that means traffic is going to be a big theme for the last 16 minutes or 15 minutes, 51 plus whatever lap you are on for the remainder of this session. We take a look at some slow-mo, starting with Hanno Laskowski, and after that it's going to be a tense, fierce fight for pole position. Well, here we are, and we're just a few seconds, well, a minute and 35 to be exact, away from the restart of the qualifying session. 9:20 exactly is when the session will resume, and as you can see, the drivers already queuing to get back underway.
As is always the case, Nico, motorsport, driving the car is critical. It's a team sport, though, and you rely on the teams as well. Now, each team has got 2 sets of slick tyres and 1 set of rain tyres, which are all marked with a barcode, and therefore it's up to them to manage all the sets and how they use them across the course of their racing. It's just another little factor that I wanted to bring into the mix of there is always so much going on. Yes, of course, we focus so much on the driver and what the driver does in the car. Of course we do. But there is a team that's working behind them as well, with coaches, engineers, mechanics, truckies, team managers, you name it. It's a cast of many, isn't it? And actually, if you have a cast of many, you can see just how successful potentially you could be, like Philippe Pret, and you can see all the P1s which he has adorned to the window there. And there is Philippe Pret, and I must mention Philippe's son Louis, who's another star driver. I really like Louis. I like Philippe as well, but Louis, of course, raced in the Ferrari Challenge to success, it has to be said. And like many drivers that come into the Ferrari Challenge, they then find their career taking a fairly north trajectory into even bigger and greater things in terms of motor racing, and Louis being one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. As we just saw a great picture of the Nick Halle car, that cartoon-style one. That's really nice. But yeah, I mean, Ferrari Challenge is both a family affair, as we've seen with the Ghostners earlier, but it's also a great springboard for motor racing careers. it is a great series in itself, but it still propels drivers to even higher accolades. Niklas Nielsen being just one name that we have to mention.
Very good example of that. He, of course, now an official Competizione GT driver, driving that wonderful as we return to the top class of Le Mans this year.
Indeed, and returning to Le Mans is a good keyword now as everybody files out of pit lane. The next time we will see the Ferrari Challenge on track after this weekend is going to be in support of the Le Mans 24 hours. Saturday morning, 9:30 is going to be the race. Don't turn up just for the race. Turn up for the race of the Ferrari Challenge, and then have a breather, and then soak in the whole 24 hours with the 499P. I mean, is there a spectacle bigger than that?
It's a struggle. It's a struggle to mention one, to be honest. Of course, my turntable exploits on the weekends that I'm off, playing soul and funk, sometimes you could argue is a bigger spectacle. No, I don't want to say that. Where are we at? With just under half of the session remaining. The big news is no Trofeo Pirelli drivers have yet deemed to take it to the track until now. So they're going to have to get the hurry up, Nico, to be honest with you. And not only are they going to have to get the hurry up, they're going to have to get the hurry up with probably quite a lot of other cars on the track as well, which is potentially going to compromise their efforts, because this is quite a short track, just 4.3 kilometers. There are only 10 turns, 3 left, 7 right-handers. And something that we don't recognize enough of is the fact that the elevation change from the start-finish straight all the way to the straight between turns 3 and 4 is something like 63 meters. It's a huge climb.
Yeah, absolutely. And the characteristics of the Spielberg track is you've got kind of 3 straights, and the first one is the start-finish straight. The second one is the one you described, which includes turn 2, or that kink, which is turn 2, up to the crest. And then it's to turn 3. But from turn 4, between 3 and 4, that's another straight. After that, it's pretty much left, right. And even if you try, you can't really get out of the way for an extended period of time, which means you have to go into the lap and hope that there is no traffic towards the end of the lap, because there's no way that those drivers will be able to avoid you. So this is going to be critical. And talking about team efforts, that is where the team really comes into play, and telling the drivers when to ease up on the previous lap to find enough track space. That is where it really becomes interesting. There is Eliseo O'Donoghue at the forefront of that crocodile.
You know, he just goes out there, does what he needs to do, brings it in again.
Yeah.
Unless that time is threatened. And the person that's been threatening him a little bit is Tom Fleming's way. It can have an impact, can't it, on you as a driver. Now, he's had some downtime to dig deep, and he will dig deep. He's such a young, talented driver, no question about that. And, you know, you will probably say, Dave, he'll have forgotten all about that and he'll have moved on.
Well, Sector 1 here indicates that, and I think it's kind of, you can see that both ways. He can feel about, well, I didn't have the results, but when he looks at the pace he had on the track, I think there is no reason to think that he needs to worry about it. But that is a big part of the psychology of a race driver, is exactly to be able to handle that, to have the mettle and to have the tenacity to deal with those letdowns. And Eliseo O'Donoghue is exactly in that situation where he will have to prove, and where he will do everything he can to prove that that was just something that he'll just ignore and battle through it and be quick. And quick he is through the first two sectors, 1.1 seconds quicker than the current time, which came from Tom Fleming, also on a purple trajectory. So it's heating up. Tom Fleming improves on his previous time of 1:30.198, and Eliseo O'Donoghue is on track to improve on that. There is a little bit of traffic ahead of him, shouldn't hinder him. That should be just enough clear tarmac ahead of him. A 1:30, a 1:29.549, and that is 8.5 tenths quicker. P1 for the moment.
Tom Fleming, that you were talking about there, had the privilege of sitting next to me on the flight over to Austria earlier on, and it was a really enjoyable conversation. As you can see, Eliseo O'Donoghue now got the disbenefit, if you will, of Mohamed Hamdi, who does everything he can to get out of Eliseo's way, but that will have compromised this lap from Eliseo O'Donoghue. He is the first of the drivers to put it into the 1:29s, 1:29.549. There is Stefano Guy, a former Ferrari Challenge racer and a great GT racer, taking a look at the data as David Gosner is one of those drivers that has been warned with regards to track limits. But David Gostner setting a personal best. Now, memory serves me, Nico, and my memory fails me more often than it serves. David was very, very quick in Misano. He'll be hoping to replicate that pace here this weekend. This is Armin Arifpour then for Riller and Schnauk, doing a bit of rally crossing with plenty of sideways and plenty of gravel, and unfortunately some of that gravel making its way out onto the racing surface.
That is a very modest definition of some. I think it was half a beach there, and this part of the track with that right-left combination, you're very susceptible to that gravel, because the car is very light, because you're going through the turns, and that means the car already has rotation within it. So if you lose grip in the wrong moment, that can be extra challenging to keep control of the car. So that's something definitely to have an eye on. 9 minutes remaining. Alessio O'Donnell P1 for the moment. Hanno Laskowski has edged out Tom Fleming. Is P2 overall, P1 in class. Franz Engstler P2 in class. Out of position by his standards, it has to be said, as we keep watching David Gostner.
But in fairness, you know, we saw in Misano, Franz Engstler out of position certainly there. He cut through the pack of cars like a hot knife through the proverbial butter, didn't he? And went off to maintain his non-stop win streak. You know, extraordinary. You are in for a treat of a race this afternoon. As if qualifying was not dramatic enough, you wait until it comes to the races. So Andreas Berg Sorensen that we're watching right now with a purple sector 1, a grey sector 2, which means it's not where he needs it to be in terms of pace, but Andreas Berg Sorensen still a very young but nonetheless talented driver who's making his way in this wonderful sport that we love so much. We're delighted that you have joined us for qualifying for our Trofeo Pirelli cars from the Ferrari Challenge. We are live from the Spielberg Circuit here in the Styrian Mountains. As Andrea and Adrian Sutil, get your teeth in order, Dave, from Goan Baron Motorsport is out on track now. Who is that slowing, looking for track space? Is that not Mr. Adrian Sutil, who I was just talking about? Basically, he's letting the cars go by there so that he can buy himself clear tarmac ahead, because what have we got? 7.5 minutes of this session remaining. And there you can see inside the cockpit of the Adrian Sutil car is just letting everybody go by so that he can give himself a perfect trajectory of clear tarmac ahead of him so that he can go for his flying lap.
Absolutely, and that is exactly the teamwork that you were describing and that he is adhering to. And obviously as a Formula One driver, he knows all about teamwork and working together with the people in the garage, on the pit perch, to achieve the ultimate best result. David Gostner, really, really good. P3 for the moment in class. Less than a tenth down on the Franz Engstler time, which is always a good place to be in general. Unless you're Franz Engstler, you want to be just as quick as Franz Engstler. But that's just a small side note. Hanno Laskowski, leader in the AMS, has put it into pit lane. So with 6.5 minutes remaining, he feels like he has done the best in this qualifying session, taking into account the rubber that he has on his car and the fact that he doesn't necessarily feel he can get much quicker without compromising his Pirelli P0s.
It becomes a risk-reward, doesn't it? Because the tyres that you qualify on are the tyres that you'll use in the race, and therefore, arguably, are you better off, except in the lap time that you put in for qualifying, but having good tyre life in the race. This is Danilo Del Favaro for Penske Sportwagen Hamburg. Well, I think that's exactly the same position that we saw Kim Eriksson go around. It's just on the exit of turn number 1. Very, very good avoidance there as Danilo Del Favaro's car was stricken across the track. Here's Adrian Sutil then, who we saw letting all the cars go by just a few moments ago. He's gone personal best in sector 1. Incidentally, Bence Valint has now gone second fastest overall. Still 6/10ths down on the Alessio O'Donnell car. But Adrian Sutil is hoping to have something to say about that. It's personal best at the moment by dint of, you can see the blue color on the sector blocks on the graphics at the bottom of your screen there. Blue S1, blue S2, and I rather suspect that S3 will become blue as well. Adrian Sutil, I think, using that one as something of a very, very hot installation lap. This is the one that is going to count for him, I believe.
And we will be following him as he takes his 488 challenge either around the track. Turn 1, always something where you have to just take enough momentum around without exceeding the track limits, because that's the first pinch point, and where race control is having a very, very keen look if you're slingshotting around. Tom Fleming, to be honest, a little bit further down than we have seen him in previous incarnations of this season. There is Ben Valent, who's currently P2, so we jump from one Pirelli driver to the next as we follow around Ben Valent for the moment, not on a very quick lap, but that
is that Simon Ladniak has been in. Not all of them been in the Ferrari Challenge, I can assure you. He's done quite a bit of racing for quite a young driver, and he's undoubtedly a talent. And we'll see what the Gomes Scuderia GT driver is able to do. His sector times thus far, we have a time of a 1:31.524, looking for a 1:29.549. Still, with only 3.5 minutes remaining, we've only got one driver in the 1:29s, and that's Elisio, who, if I dare be so bold, and how dare I, as we watch Max Mugelli now, another very quick driver. Yeah, Elisio has done exactly as I predicted. He's brought the car out, installed it, bagged a very, very quick lap, parked it, and quite a battle going on here between Max Mugelli and Mohamed Hamdi. It's almost like it's a race going on here. Side by side they go, and, oh, let's almost make it 3 abreast. And you can see that Max Mugelli really rather felt that his lap was compromised there.
Yeah, I think he gestured a little bit, and
yes, I think he did.
In consequence, that brought 2 other cars very much into tow, and I think that will be something that race control will have a nice cappuccino or espresso after qualifying session to talk about some of the drivers and say, not necessarily something we need during qualifying, just go about your business. Adrian Sutil is trying to improve, 2.5 minutes remaining in this qualifying session.
Tom Fleming has improved as well, and he's got a little bit closer. He's still 9/10 down, but I really rather get the impression, having watched how Fleming's racecraft, Nico, that he drives it in the race rather than, you know, focuses too much on qualifying. I might be wrong.
Yeah, well, he's definitely also parked the car in pit lane, and that means Adrian Sutil is the best of the drivers currently on our timing screen, who's still out there battling 6/10 after 2 sectors down on pole time. That means he's still fighting for an improvement, and he does P3, and that means he vaults Tom Fleming, puts him down into P4. That's still a 2nd row start for the time being for Tom Fleming. Henry Laskowski is coming out of pit lane, but I think at this stage, with 1 minute 30 seconds, well, he's already
that quality session, and it was interesting, and something that you should pick up on is the fact that even though the Radici Automobili driver was not out on track, he remained in the pit lane, but he remained in the car, booted up, ready to go again, Nico, if anyone was going to threaten his P1 place. It could have been Benz Valent, it could have been Adrian Sutil, it could have been Thomas Fleming. It could have been, in terms of time, this man, David Gosner, but that would have been academic, really, because David Gosner is a Trofeo Pirelli AM driver, who at the moment is 3rd fastest at this lap. He's not going to improve on that. With just 36 seconds and counting before this session comes to a close. Of course, anyone that crosses the timing line before the checkered flag has fallen, even if it's only a millisecond before the checkered flag falls, the lap that they are on can still count. So the session is not over until all cars have returned to the pit lane. And David Gosner, where he is on the track, whether he'll potentially get another lap in, I don't think he will. So it's Elisio Dono, Benz Valent, Adrian Sutil, the top 3 Pirelli drivers. The top 3 Pirelli AM drivers are going to be Hanno Laskowski, Franz Engstler, and David Gosner, the car that we were watching just a moment or so ago. Meantime, the number 88 car continues out there on track of Armin Arifpour, the Riller and Schnaut driver, who is trying to improve on his P15 overall, which in class is P9 at the moment.
Indeed, and it is last chance saloon, obviously, for him. A 1:02.385 is the target time after 2nd sector. he's not quite getting there, and with 2 seconds down, I don't think a personal improvement is in the cards for him, but we will follow him around as he is the final car to be able to do anything about our qualifying result here in Trofeo Pirelli. Don't go anywhere if you feel like it, because Corse qualifying is not that far away, just a few minutes. So stay with us if you can somehow manage. Maybe get a cappuccino, get a cup of tea, whatever you fancy, because there is 2 more sessions of qualifying to come. Arif Paul finishes his lap. He's no improvement, and I think that means we are all ready and set. And Eliseo Dono is all ready and set for taking the race in P1.
You can just see it there. Those the Rotiform pole position awards are lovely. There it is. Eliseo, hold it up a bit for me. Really, really nice, and they depict the very track that you're qualifying on. I think they're a lovely touch.
Absolutely, and Eliseo very good at standing still for the photograph.
Absolutely. There was Eliseo and Elisa there. Eliseo part of the communications team from the Ferrari Challenge. So, yeah, very interesting combination of names there. And there's Franz Hengstler. Big thumbs up for Franz Hengstler. I can't help but feel, Nico, that... And there's Luca, his son, also in the picture there. Franz Hengstler, it's a non-pole position. Is that the first non-pole position for Franz? Of course it is, because he started right at the back of the pack, did he not, in Misano?
Yeah, he definitely, he has taken all the wins, but he hasn't taken all the pole positions, so not entirely unfamiliar territory for him. But as you said, he has been very, very good in the race thus far, actually unbeaten in the races thus far, and that's especially impressive since he moved up from Corse for this year. Here are some slow-mos.
This is the pole position then for our Pirelli AM driver, Nico, and that is Hanno Laskowski for the Emil Frey organization. He's P1 in the AMS, P1 in the Pirellis is the Radici Automobili driver Eliseo Dono. So well done, Eliseo, and well done to Hanno then. P1 in each of their respective categories. Brilliant stuff from qualifying here at Spielberg, and the all-smiling Eliseo Dono then, who he and I shared some time at breakfast this morning. There you can see the backdrop then of where the race will take place for Trofeo Pirelli cars a little bit later on. Coming soon, it will be Corse, as you can see, in around about 6 minutes from now.
See you then.